Well, hello, Emmanuel. It's Donovan here, interning with the church for the spring and summer. And I just had some thoughts for the day for you from the book of Acts, which we've been going through as a group of young adults for the last 9 weeks or so. So I got 5, and we'll see how Andrew breaks these up. So the first lesson is coming out of Acts chapter 2, where Peter just finished his sermon at Pentecost, and 3,000 people believed. And this is kind of just the first church in Jerusalem, and it says this in verse 42. And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers. And awe came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. So we just got this awesome picture of the early church and just how they had everything in common right from the get-go. They're devoted, glad, and generous. Those are the 3 kind of main things that we can learn from, I think, from the early church. They were devoted to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to prayer. Today, the apostles' teaching is replaced by scripture. So they were devoted to what the apostles had to say. They listened every day. We get this awesome picture of every day they're going to the temple and listening to Peter and John speak. Every day they're together, sharing meals together, praying together. They just have this amazing fellowship. And I know today, a lot of the time, we treat church as a once-a-week thing. The rest of our life is in a separate box almost, where we have our baggage there, we don't bring that to church, and we don't bring church into our lives. And I think if we take one thing out of the book of Acts, is that the church is an everyday, all day, 24/7 thing where we're doing life together. We're constantly in the word, in prayer, and in fellowship. It's a lifestyle more than it is a belief system. Yeah, and in verse 44 it says, everyone who believed was together and had all things in common. Just that they're selling everything they had, giving it to the church, and giving the proceeds to everyone as they had need is just such an awesome picture that really they're doing not just life together, but ministry as a whole together all the time. No one has something that they say is theirs, right? Everything belongs to the church. Just because we belong to the church, everything we have is devoted to that ministry, making disciples, helping people who are in need, all those things. I think it's just an amazing picture. And the last thing I want to point out in here is that they had favor with all the people. And I think that's interesting, because when you read Jesus' words, as he says, people will hate you because they hate me. And here we see the very first church, 3,000 people in Jerusalem who are believing and doing life together in a very radical, different way. The fact that they had favor with all the people, I think, talks a little bit about how they're acting in their communities. This just shows that they're upright, they're above reproach. They are serving people wherever they are, helping out in ways. We get a little picture here in, I think, chapter 5, where or chapter 6, where people are just selling everything they have and caring for widows, which I think is awesome. So there's just this idea that they're above reproach. They have favor with all the people. And so I think looking at how Jesus says, people will hate you because they hate me, it shouldn't be because of anything we've done to earn that hatred as the church. We should still be living upright, above reproach, serving people. And if people hate us, it should be because they hate Jesus, because they can't bear their sins confronted by what the gospel has to say. Let people hate us for that reason. Let suffering and persecution come because of that reason, and not because of the way we live and carry out what it means to be a Christian in front of the culture. We do live in a very different way than the world does, but that kind of life shouldn't bring reproach to us. It should actually cause people, like it did here, to have favor with us. And that means we serve people, we love people, that doesn't mean we compromise on truth and calling out sin, but we do it in such a way that people have nothing wrong with us besides the fact that they can't stand Jesus. And so that's the first lesson that we got out of the book of Acts, I think, as a group of young adults, and I hope it's something that the Lord can challenge you in as he's challenged us, and even me personally, with just how I think about the church and how life is, and doing this thing together all the time, not just once a week.